Hey folks, we're here with a review on Altina, or more accurately, a retrospective review on Altina after I've had sufficient time to sit on her, as well as get some real use on her during an Astra week. I felt having a week with her as a non-bonus definitely gave me a real idea of how I felt on her, and rather than just throwing and number crunching through just simulators, I got some real testing, and it gave me plenty of time to use her, see her flaws, her strengths, and give me a real true feel on what she is as a unit. So straight off the box, it's very obvious what IS wants players to do with her. They are basically, this is their response of Naga being a very, very weak, kind of in a lot of ways, baggage unit. In a way that when you're playing Naga, you're playing an escort mission. To the point that most people use their Nagas as smite bots and reposition bots, and then once they're done with that, they put them as far as away in the corner as they can, because they're so prone to dying. This, in addition to Thursier dominating through Astra Season, they released a unit which very obviously comes as the perfect counter to her. Great rest stat, red, and has a brave effect, so you're certainly killing those Thursiers that you managed to see. As a whole, I think as a base kit, she's great, but there are definitely rooms to innovate when using her. I think if you're going for the pure vanilla set, I still think even just changing 1 to 2 of her skill sets will definitely make a world of difference between you and the vanilla Altinas, which is to say the vanilla base kit Altinas. So as a base kit, this is how she looks like. I do believe if you want to use her though, you do want to change, you want to make it something more akin to this. I think if you're looking for pure vantage, this is something that you want to aim for as an optimal. You want to change your C skill to smoke. You want to give her breathing so it synergizes well with her vantage, and you want to give her reposition so when you're still setting up your vantage and test trapping, she's able to contribute. It'll do a lot more for you than smites, because usually your smites will be on your other units who will be trying to either smite her in or smite other people in. And there are also going to be plenty of scenarios where I can see you're going to have to vantage out someone who attacks and reposition them, leaving Altina in front so she can face tank the unit coming up. As a whole, I think this is still very vanilla. There's definitely room to improve, and I think most of the ways that I can see as an innovation tool would be to give her proper support, just goad stacking. So I've done this a little bit of testing on Altina with about 3 goads supports. If you properly support her with triple goad and a drive speed, she can reach a very respectable stat of 30 speed. If you're able to supplement that with some sort of speed buff, she can easily reach around 34 to 35 to 36 speed on an optimal. And when you reach those sorts of speeds, you are a huge threat to a lot of people's teams that rely on Seliph. By just throwing her in front of Seliph, because of her speed reaching around 35, she's able to even +10, +10 flowers Celeb will get quadded by her, which means Celeb cannot survive into Miracle, which does mean a lot of people's defenses will get run over by her. And as a whole, because it's not pure numbers on her, she is a lot less prone to getting chilled attack than she would otherwise. Because she has so much invisible stats, she's able to dodge shrines, which can be very helpful if you want to engage in earlier turns. I do think the biggest weakness with this though is even though you're able to do the very strong Vantage Brave, much something like Keaton or Sword Reinhardt, the problem with this is so many teams already are working toward to countering all of these Vantage strats, and with Altina being a mainstay of Astra, they're going to work even harder to put this into their teams and cinch it so Vantage does not work. So you're already fighting an uphill battle that's only going to become steeper as Altina succeeds. So if you fight into the pure first level thinking, I think you're going to run into a hill and a lot more bumps than what previously was. And people were already working a counter against Vantage as is. So this brings me to the second point, which is what I feel is going to be the up and coming build, and it's a build that I personally had the most excitement with doing. It is definitely the highest and best though, in terms of making it succeed, but I believe it has the most flexibility to make it work. For that, I actually believe the best build, in my opinion, is a Gale Force build. So I've been running this build specifically with a minus attack Altina, minus attack plus res, and I do not feel that at any point that the minus attack hurt her enough to not make this extremely strong. While at other times I feel like having minus attack when doing the Vantage would actually have made a big difference. The genius and flexibility of this build is how much you are able to take out in one turn that you can then transfer into a Vantage end turn. Because you're able to initiate on unit and take out usually 2 to 3 units, you're very easily able to dig into their backline supports, run away from huge threats, and in addition to, take out their anti-Vantage units. So rather than just say this is the theory craft of how this works, I felt like it was most important to show a replay of how something like this works. So I will be leaving this replay for you all to kind of digest on your own and make your own judgment on it. Okay, with that replay in your mind, there are some things I did want to call out to. This is, like I said, is a fairly high investment though. I don't think it's very easy to make this work without a Valor to guarantee your 3 CD Gale Force, which makes a huge difference as shown in that map, because at no point did I ever have to rely on having Heavy Blade, because if you have to rely on Heavy Blade, this makes the build a lot less consistent, because now you're checking against your attack stat to enemies' attack stats, which at times you will not always be higher, despite your +6 that you get from your A skill, as well as any plus attack. By having the freedom of that, you're able to get into killing one unit, killing a second unit, and in optimal times, your secondary Gale Force unit, which will be Valoria, is able to also sneak in, hit a unit, get their Gale Force off, and then hit another unit. So you are able to realistically take out 4 units without a lot of setup in general. Do note this was during the week that Naga was a bonus, so I did have the freedom of having a second dancer, which did help, but does not change my opinion on how I think of her as a unit. Just the second dancer gives you a little bit more options than normal, but I still think there are many situations that you can still do most of what I would do depending on enemy setup. It is still, at the end of the day, not a perfect strat. There are going to be maps where you should not be using Gale Force. The team is super anti-Gale Force because they have tons of guard, because they have their backline anti-vantage / blue units hit enough away that you're not able to deal with them on your phase, on your terms. But I feel like this is at least going to be the least countered compared to the Vantage. So my overall review on her is she's great. Out the box, it's very obvious how you want to use her, and she's great at what they want you to use her for. But she's flexible enough that there are many different teams of types of team compositions you can use for her. I think what's going to rise up is, as the number 1 spot, is going to be the very obvious Vantage. The secondary will be the Goads, which I think is numerically probably some of the most scariest, because you're able to deal with a lot more units, and you have a lot more stats that are invisible, and it's a lot less prone to shrines. While the third, which I believe is the strongest, and will be underrated for a decent amount of time, is the Gale Force builds, and I think will probably be the least able to be countered of them all. I hope this helped sort of give you my own input on how I thought about Altina as a unit. I will probably try to be doing this a little bit more often, because people seem to be a fan of the other reviews before. So I'll try to do this a little bit more regularly. But again, I will only be choosing units that I feel are interesting and worth talking about, and I can bring useful insight. So yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, feel free to comment, feel free to tell me if you like it or dislike by pressing the buttons, and yeah, feel free to comment about any units that you might potentially not really look at, or anything you might have a problem so I can improve on in future videos. And that'll be it. Alright, everyone, bye bye.